All right, back for another beer review, and today is another installment of Western New York Wednesday here on the channel. And the beer I'm reviewing today comes from the Captain Lawrence Brewing Company, and they're out of Elmsford, New York. And this is their Golden Delicious, the 2018 vintage. So this is a Belgian-style Tripel that is dry hopped with Amarillo hops, and then aged in Apple Brandy barrels. Comes in at 11% alcohol by volume, 35 IBUs. And at the time of review, this beer is just over 5 months old. So, full disclosure, I've had this one before, but not this vintage. I actually had, I think it was the 2013 or 14 vintage. Anyway, I had this beer back sometime in 2014, so it was like, 4 to 5 years ago. And I remember being very excited about it because A, I like Apple Brandy, B, I like Apple Brandy barrel-aged beers, and C, I like what Captain Lawrence does. But it was very disjointed. It was, I want to say it was a mess, but it wasn't cohesive. It was all over the place, and it wasn't a bad beer. I think I gave it like a 3.5, maybe 3.25 on Untapped. I should have probably looked at my Untapped check-in so I remembered, but I think I gave it like a 3.5. It wasn't a bad beer. It was just, it was a disappointment. It was a letdown. So when I saw this in cans, and it was the 2018 vintage a couple months ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to grab this. I'm going to give it a proper review, so to speak, and we're going to revisit it because I haven't had it in like 4 or 5 years, and I figured it would make for somewhat of a fun review. I mean, they call this an American Tripel, which, come on, it doesn't exist. It's a Belgian-style Tripel that they dry hop with Amarillo hops. I think they also use Simcoe and Cascade as far as the hopping process goes. And yeah, on the side here, this beer has won the bronze medal at 2 different Great American Beer Fest 2 different years, 2008 and 2012. So it's been quite a while since it won an award. But anyway, let's give it a crack and a pour and see what we got going on. Just crazy the type of beers that are canned nowadays. When I had this originally, it was in a bottle. So, proper glassware, hashtag, I don't know, maybe. But we're going to throw it in the Captain Lawrence glass and see what we got. So this pours out, I was going to say clear, but no, a very hazy, like yellow-orange color. Definitely, there are some fine particulates. You won't probably see that on camera, but there are some very fine particulates. A 1 finger straight up bright white head. I mean, that is crazy. It's blinding me. But yeah, that looks like a nice Belgian-style Tripel, complete with all the sediment. Let's get a nose. Now, this has been out of my fridge for 45 minutes, so you're probably looking at like 55, 60 degrees. Definitely getting apple, but I couldn't tell you it's coming from the Apple Brandy. I would assume maybe the yeast esters of the Belgian yeast, or something is going on in there. And it smells more of like a red apple as opposed to like a Granny Smith apple or something. There's a slight spiciness, definitely there's almost like a honey character in this one. The base stuff, it smells like a Belgian beer. I wouldn't say necessarily a Belgian Tripel, maybe like a Belgian Pale Ale. There's a distinct spiciness there. There is like a slight oak tannin presence too. I would say that if I was drinking this blind, I would be very hard pressed to tell you that this was aged in Apple Brandy barrels based on the nose. As it opens up though, more apples coming to the forefront, which is nice. There's a slight booziness. I would not peg this at 11%. I'd probably say 8 or 9. But much like I remember back in 2014, it's very disjointed. Like each time I go back for a sip, I'm getting something different, but it doesn't seem to blend in well with what I got beforehand. Maybe a slight clove presence too. Yeah, the Belgian yeast esters are definitely coming to the forefront. I don't know. This doesn't, again, it doesn't, it's very weird because it's very reminiscent of when I had it, 4 or 5 years ago. And I was thinking maybe my palate or maybe the beer itself would, change quite a bit. But what I'm remembering from 2014 is kind of what's in my glass right now, at least from the aroma. So let's get a taste. Cheers, everyone. Definitely a bit better than I remember it. It's not anything like amazing, but first thing I will say is I actually get a big blast of vanilla, probably coming from the oak that the brandy barrels were in. It's actually very pronounced like vanilla as well. It's kind of weird. I did not get that at all on the nose. First off, it's not really boozy at all. It definitely has, like, I can tell this is a bigger beer, but I would not peg it at 11%. I would say, like I said in the nose, 8, 8.5, 9%. The base is a Belgian-style Tripel, getting some of those yeast esters, a little bit of clove, a little bit of apple that could be coming from the barrels, but also from the beer itself. There's definitely a spiciness in there as well. Almost like a honey presence as well. The body on this one is very, very thin for 11%. This is drinking like medium to higher side of medium body. I remember this one being thin, so not a surprise. The mouthfeel, very effervescent. It's very crisp and very crisp. I was gonna say crisp, clean, and refreshing. It's not really clean. It's not super refreshing because it's a higher ABV beer and getting a lot of vanilla and a lot of other things going on. But it does have a nice crispness to the carbonation and the mouthfeel in general. This is definitely better than I remember, but not much better. I will say that vanilla note that I'm probably picking up from the oak is really nice. It's almost giving me like apple slices drizzled in vanilla, like a vanilla sauce or whatever, vanilla drizzle some kind, or like I don't know, something in that realm. But for the most part, it's kind of like I remember. It's very disjointed. Like here's the thing. The Belgian-style Tripel, or the American Tripel as they say, does not blend well, in my opinion, with the Apple Brandy barrels. And you might think, well, it kind of should, because you can get apple yeast esters, and the Belgian-style Tripel, basically the characteristics for that probably would go well with the Apple Brandy barrels. For me, though, it just doesn't work as well. I think I'd rather have this Belgian-style Tripel in another barrel, brandy, just regular brandy. I don't know, something that isn't Apple Brandy. Maybe there is a lot of apple here, both from the base Belgian-style Tripel, but also from the barrels itself. It's not bad. It's somewhat disjointed. It's not cohesive. There's characters all over the place, and I just don't know how to react to this, honestly. It's sweet, but not overly so. There is a huge dryness actually at the end of the palate. So it's all sweetness up front, but at the end of the palate, there's enough dryness to balance it out. It's not bitter whatsoever. At this point, over 5 months, that Amarillo dry hopping really doesn't show at all. I'm not getting any orange like I typically do get from Amarillo. There's really no hop presence in the beer. This has always been a weird one for me. Like I said, I had it 4 or 5 years ago. It was disjointed. It wasn't cohesive. And it's kind of like that now. The one nuance that kind of surprised me and is actually making me enjoy this beer a little bit more is that vanilla character. It really is nice. Kind of breaks up the monotony of so much of that apple and like spiciness. I will say the positives to this one: doesn't drink like it's 11%, both from the body and also from the fact that you can't really tell. There's no astringency on the palate. There's really none into the chest. But I would say still peg this around like 8.5, 9%. And number two, I really like that vanilla component. The negatives, though, it's disjointed. It's not cohesive. You don't get a ton of the apple brandy. And look, it's a good beer. It's a good, solid beer. But I think I paid like $5 for this, $4.50, $5. It's an ale aged in apple brandy barrels, Belgian-style Tripel, American Tripel, whatever you want to say. And I just expect more from it. I just do. At 11%, I want flavors that punch me in the face, that are intense. I want this beer to be cohesive. I want it to meld together. I want it to be beautiful, and it's just not. So, rating for the Golden Delicious 2018 vintage from Captain Lawrence, 3.75 out of 5. I think I gave it a 3.5 last time. I'm going to give it a 3.75 because, again, the positives are it doesn't drink like it's 11%, and I do like that vanilla character. I just wish it was better. I love what Captain Lawrence does typically. I've reviewed a couple beers on the channel from them that I really haven't enjoyed, which is weird. I think I've reviewed like 3 beers now total from them, and 2 of them have been kind of a disappointment, which is weird. I like what Captain Lawrence does. If you see Captain Lawrence, check out their stuff because I think they do good stuff. You guys are getting a rare jump cut because my camera stopped. 10 minutes is the recording limit for my camera, so it happens. But I was saying I enjoy what they do, so if you do see this beer and it's under $4, I'd say give it a go, especially if you like Belgian-style Tripels or you like apple brandy barrels. Give it a go, see what you think. For me personally, it's not one I would seek out again. It's certainly not one I would buy, and I'm never probably going to review it again. But anyway, appreciate everybody out there stopping by for another beer review, and until the next one, cheers.